How's it going, guys? Hope you guys have been enjoying the podcast that we've been putting out recently. I just wanted to hop on here before we get this podcast underway and give a few quick announcements. The first being that we will be at Huntstock August 11th through the 13th. We will be selling our hats that we have been displaying on our social media pages and that you guys have seen us wearing. So if you guys are interested in purchasing those, make sure you stop by the booth, come chat with us, tell us some stories. It'll be a really good time. We're really looking forward to it. We will also be selling Todd Mead's book, Pursuing Public Land Bucks. Todd Mead's been on our podcast before. He's a friend of ours, and he's killed a lot of really good bucks in the Adirondacks and throughout the country. It's a really good book. So if you're interested in purchasing that, make sure you stop by and grab one of those as well. Lastly, I just got the opportunity to sit down with the boys over at Staggercast and do a quick podcast with them. So if you haven't listened to that yet, go check that out. With that being said, let's jump right into the podcast. Hope you guys enjoy.
This is the Adirondack Bucks and Beyond podcast. Here we go.
Yeehaw! Oh, what a hog!
Take him, Corey. Attaboy.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Adirondack Bucks and Beyond podcast. Got a full house today. Got everyone here and a returning guest, Adam Arquette. Thanks.
Pleased to be here.
So where do we want to start off today?
We definitely want to hear about his 2021 season.
Yes.
We want to hear about how that went for you.
22?
Excuse me, 2022 season.
Well, I know what you were going for.
Yeah, it's 2023, so.
Yeah.
We're rocking it. It was challenging. Mm-hmm. Give me a minute.
We can help you. It was friggin' hot out last year.
Yeah.
Well, that's all.
Well, I didn't get to hunt much, so I don't know.
I think
about
when
it.
did we get snow? The 16th? Was that the first day we got snow?
Of November?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me because we probably hunted on good snow for about 2 weeks before I killed my buck.
I don't even remember if I saw a deer until then.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, that first day it snowed. I had, monsters on camera.
Right.
And I was going in. Well, I had that big fat 8-pointer. the through the ice buck from the year before.
Oh, right.
Yeah, from the last podcast.
Yeah,
right? The last story.
So I think it was the same one. And you don't get many 200-pounders, but I think this was a legit one.
Yeah.
So I was kind of after him, and I went into that area the first day we got snow when I should have went somewhere else. But anyways, I got in there, and I didn't even find a track until middle of the day that day. And then he took me for a ride. And, he went through some nasty stuff. I ended up a long ways away from the truck and hitchhiking back at the end of the day.
Right.
It is a good thing we have Vermont hunters in the Adirondacks because they're always willing to give you a ride back to you. And that's what the guy did. He's like, I couldn't let you walk. Where'd you park, son? I'm some old guy. I'm like, well, I'm a long ways that way. He goes, I'm heading that way anyways.
Thank you, Vermonter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but I seen, and then I talked to you. We were in the same area the next day.
Yeah.
After that,
Yeah.
and I saw. How many bucks did I see that day? I don't know now.
Yeah.
I let a little 4-pointer go. I took a video of him.
Right.
And then
you did.
there was a big one there. I had tracked the big one a ways and finally was catching up to him, and there was a hot doe. So they were all around together. And that little 4-pointer, they were all just trying to get a piece, but it wasn't happening. The big one was with the doe.
Sure.
And so I skedaddled through them. Ended up pushing out the big one. He went farther away, and it was late in the afternoon. Well, there was another one there. He'd split off towards the truck, so I went kind of following him, half-heartedly. And he was coming back to try to get back near that big one with the doe. And he's like, basket rack 8-pointer. Your average 8-pointer. It's kind of a little early to flatten him. When he turned, just walking away, and I'm like, oh, man, I probably should have shot him. So he walked off.
Yeah, you hear that all the time. Guys are like, I passed this buck, and then like 10 seconds later after he runs, we're like, I probably shouldn't have passed him.
Yeah, well, it happens to me all the time, but then it's like when you don't do that and you get when it's like, oh man, it's over.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. And what was the date?
That was
Right
the
now?
17th, maybe.
17th.
It was the second day
Still.
on snow, and things were crunchy that day.
Yeah.
It was rough.
You remember the time period he's talking about, Corey? We spent some time, up in that
Oh, yeah.
same area.
Yup.
Yeah, it was not very good.
Well, I couldn't believe. Now I'd gone over there, and I didn't even plan on hunting where I'd went. I think we would have ended up right near each other. 'Cause
If we'd crossed the road, we'd have run right into each
yeah,
other.
so I had drove down that road, and it was like every spot I had in mind, there was like 3 or 4 trucks there, and I wasn't there that late. They're just already there. I'm like, no, going somewhere else. But
Right.
Yeah, there was a good amount of snow on the ground, so everybody was trying to get there as well they could.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good
and
early
that had
snow.
the
and-
most snow because I actually was at camp
Yeah,
coming down.
sure.
But I don't know. I'll tell you. I don't know if I told you. I got service at my camp now, so I had gotten a text message from Joel, who is a mutual friend of all of ours.
Yeah.
Probably half the listeners. Joel had sent me. He got a picture on his cell cam of the legend.
Yeah.
Oh, is this when you?
I don't know if I should say the legend's name, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, is the legend the guy who walked by his camera with no shirt on, or
That's the real legend. We'll get into that.
he just happens to be sitting right across from us?
We'll get into that heated moment at some point. But yeah. So I got a message from Joel, and that was that night. So I didn't get that one. It was a long day. And I got a message from Joel, and it was like late. He's like, he went by the camera, so I knew where it was.
Yeah.
I knew the time, and I'm like, it was the 17th. Like, he's cruising. In my mind, I'm thinking, this deer is gonna be 10 hours ahead of me as at daylight,
Right.
And then I gotta hoof it in there. I had a long day the day before, and it still was kind of early in the season for me, so it's like I'm not Davy Crockett, I'm still Gravy Crockett. I don't have my woods legs up going like I'm ready to go, but not like I should be. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
You
And,
hadn't cinch your pack down around the waist.
yeah,
at that
the pack
point, right?
wasn't cinched quite up where in kill mode yet. So, in the terrain though, for real, like if it was up north, I'd have been on it. But for
Yeah.
that terrain, it's like all
Yeah.
right, double the time to get there.
Right.
So I ended up not going, and I wanted to go after that deer on perfect conditions, the one we've all been after, because I don't think I could kill him any other way.
Sure.
I think it's got to be just about perfect.
Yeah.
And so I passed on that, and that's when I ended up over where we were.
Yeah,
Because it was better snow down there, because it wasn't as good at camp.
It was, and me and Corey still kick ourselves to this day because we spent 2 days in the same area as you, and then on the third day when we could have gone in there after that buck, we decided to go somewhere else about another 30 minutes maybe north of that. And then after the season goes by and all the camera data starts getting compiled and we see dates that we missed, I mean, we pretty much we should have been in there
Bad choice.
tracking that buck. We
But
probably could have at least got on his track.
You'll never know, though.
No,
I know, it's easy to feel
Such a
that way.
toss-up.
When we were in there that day, the only reason I even got close to those deer, because it was crunchy, as you remember,
Yeah.
but it was so windy. The wind was just ripping. It was brutal cold, and it was so loud.
Well, I remember the day
Yeah.
that I was up there, and both you and Brad were up there, and it was so cold
Oh,
that day.
muzzleloader?
Yeah. It was
I was
late
frozen.
muzzleloader.
I looked like an old man with the icicles on my beard. So I was frozen.
It was
Well, you
freezing.
said you were gonna come down my way, and I was like, I'm gonna sit by his fire. I ended up sitting by a fire for like an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Some guy comes walking up on me. I talked to him for about 30 minutes. I'm like, I don't really feel like leaving here right now.
It's funny because you're sitting there by your fire waiting for me to push something by you, and then I'm sitting there having a ham sandwich next to my fire waiting for you to push something off the top. Something happened though. in
Yeah,
there.
you had messaged me, and I was
I
like, yeah,
thought it
there's
was you coming.
No, it
'cause
was down below me.
Yeah.
It ended up down below me, and all I could hear is sticks breaking and crashing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what is
Something
that
went
Adam
through.
coming through the woods, or is that a big buck?
sound the same. No, so then I missed. So then I tracked a pretty good one. He didn't have a big track, but he had a wide stance, and he was a good one. I shot at him twice and missed him, and then I think the last day I could have hunted. It was next to the last day. It was towards the end anyway. I'm going for blood. First deer with horns is getting. I shot that small 6 or 7 pointer or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Tell a story though about it. I want to hear it.
So I was on a good one, which I think might have been the same one I had missed probably a week before. Same area. In this area, there was no. This area has some acorn crop, but there was no acorns last year, so they're right in the swamps.
Right.
So this area around the swamp was just loaded with deer. So it was like barnyard conditions. But what I was doing was, I would like circle like above the swamp, and I'd look for the tracks going down in, and then just go into the mess and kind of still hunt it more or less. So I'd gotten on the decent one. I think it was the same one. Because like I said, his track wasn't big, but he was really wide. I mean, compared to even some of the big tracks I've seen, he was pretty wide.
Right.
So whether he was bull-legged or who knows. So I got on him, and I was following him down. And my friend Chris was hunting with me in the same area that day. So he was on another track before we even got in there. He was on a good one. And I'm like, yeah, I just sent him a text. I'm like, yeah, I'm on a good one. It's going down the swamp. So I go down in the swamp, and these deer it opened up into like a swale meadow, and I saw 2 deer run out from the right, and then I saw that buck run out, and he looked, and I'm like, I thought about it for a second, and I already knew what it wasn't. I said, you know what? He's getting it. I was excited. It was fun. Boom. Boom, boom, because I just shoot.
Yeah.
And he dropped out in the meadow, and yeah.
You got your buck for the year.
I got my buck, and my buddy Chris come along, so gutted it out. Now, meanwhile, that other one was running does around. I didn't see him, but they're running does around right there. So he came down. So we got my deers gutted out there, and then I'm like, well, you might as well shoot this one. So we started tracking as a team that other one, and Chris the shooter. So we're going along, and I actually found some great spots tracking that buck the rest of the day. And I had a great time with my best friend, so it was great.
Yeah,
that's
teaches
awesome.
you something.
That was the best. And he ended up circling around. We jumped him a couple times. He ran right back by the corpse of the buck that I'd shot.
Oh, really?
Went around and headed right back for the truck. So
Yeah.
we left my deer there that night, and I went back the next day and got him.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You go in
Very
there by
cool.
yourself and grab him?
So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not going to take anybody's time from
Well,
him.
and he was what, a 6-pointer, right?
He was a 6. I mean, you could say he's a 7, but it wasn't in it. He had 6 points. It was a 6-pointer.
Right.
It was a year and a half old deer.
Yeah. Hey,
Yep.
still, you said it was all about the adventure on that
got
one.
one,
and-
had a good
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got. Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
then, and so that was the end of rifle because I had wedding things for my brother's wedding last year, so we didn't hunt the last.
We really
4
hate
days.
people who have weddings during deer
Yeah,
season.
Kurt, I love you, but
Right, Adam?
he made a deal with his wife that he could hunt on their anniversary.
Yeah.
That was like the stipulation.
Oh, thank you for taking that. Yeah, guys, sorry for all the noise going on. We're sitting outside right now. We got wind chimes.
We're
We got cars.
poolside.
We thought about having the
poolside.
podcast in the pool today. But
I didn't bring shorts, so I only had a Speedo. They wouldn't let me. But no.
Big buck banana hammock.
Yeah. You're in a hammock. So, yeah, that was the end of rifle for me. And then, muzzleloader, we got to hunt a little bit together.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and I saved a couple days so we could do that again this year because I had a good time.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that.
So
we
awesome.
definitely will.
Yeah, and we were on some big ones in there, too.
For sure we were.
Oh, yeah. Well,
sure we were.
that day that I was there with you guys, I thought for sure it was going to happen. I was just on – so Brad had gone up on the bench above me. We ran into another guy, Vermonter.
Of course.
And, in the parking lot.
A
And
green,
we kind
a
of –
green plate? No way.
we love picking on the Vermonters.
Yeah.
So we had talked to him in the parking lot, and he's like, hey, well, the more the merrier in the woods. He's like, you guys are in between me. We're gonna kick some deer up. I ended up seeing a lot of deer that day. I ended up seeing probably 5, 6 deer. I don't know what they
It was
were.
loud.
But it was very
crunchy.
loud, very
Yeah.
loud, and very cold.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was freezing cold that day. Yeah, no, that was a good day. And then, let's see. Well, I'd hunted one day with you that day, and then the last day, the last few days I had muzzle, I was right after it.
Yeah.
The last day of muzzleloader, snow was projected, and I was like watching because it's like, when's it starting?
I remember that.
Is it starting midday? Whatever. My wife had to work, so it was Sunday. My wife had to go to work, so my mother was going to come down and watch the kids so I could get out and hunt. And it starts snowing. I'm like, it was like 9 o'clock. It was late, but it started coming down. My mom comes down. I'm in the truck, driving up toward road was slick. I almost wiped out. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah, I ain't driving where I was going. I'm going to hunt close to home. So, again, picked up my buddy because he lives in Oh, just said a name.
That's right. We'll take it out.
Good. Beep. And so go up to the trailhead, and I'm just cruising. I'm like, you're on your own because I'm literally going to be running through these woods because you're going to have to jump a deer. You're going to have to basically jump on one to find a track. And I was just plowing. I mean, cruising. And I jumped a couple where you were talking about that drainage.
Yep.
I started getting into them there, and I still didn't find anything I wanted because I was still looking. I wasn't gonna shoot a small one back there. I already had a deer. I didn't care.
Right.
So cruise around. I go up to the top of that. I climbed a sheer face to get up there because they bed down up there early season, but I never really hunted that too much late on that side. And I just happened to come. I jumped one. I came right onto it. Like as soon as I came up the hill, it was there. And I think it was 2:00 or 2:30. It was late. And I sent you a picture. It was a good one.
Yeah, you told me. You said he's got long tines because I just saw some feeding.
So I didn't see him when I first jumped him, but I could see. He went back to feeding. He had just fed and bedded down there, and he got up. He was feeding again when I jumped him. So I did wait, and I said, well, I'm going to wait. But that's the only time I'm going to wait because daylight's going fast. Mm-hmm. I got on him. It was still snowing, but I could follow his track. I mean, it was perfect. And it was still loud, though, because it was still cold. The leaves were so crunchy from the day, like the day before that we'd hunted.
Right, it was all frozen underneath.
It was frozen underneath.
Yeah.
And I was just puttering. I didn't sneak. I was just walking. I jumped him again and just kept going. The second time I saw him, I saw his rack. And he went. And if I had a rifle, I'd have been shooting the second time.
Oh, you're always second guessing when you have the one shot in your hand.
Yeah, well, you want to make it count,
right.
And he went, and I just saw that rack. I'm like, oh, man. And I was telling, I called him the gentleman buck because he took me right back. I stayed on him until I could not see, and he was taking me right back towards my truck. We crossed the trail as it was last light. He just puttered ahead of me the whole time. I probably jumped him 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
If I had another hour, he'd have been dead.
He would have been done.
He'd have been dead
done
for sure. Because he was very curious. He was very curious.
Well, that's the best when they start heading back towards the truck, and you're like, "Oh, can I please make this happen?"
Well, I was so glad he was going that way, but I had it in my mind like I am after this buck until the last minute, and I don't care where he goes.
Now, did you know what buck it was?
Not at the time.
Not at the time.
Nope, because I pulled my cameras out of there early, and I didn't hunt up there at all.
Yeah, that was the only day you went up there.
That was the only day I went up there.
By chance, you didn't even mean to go up there. Just the road
I wasn't even going to go there.
And
I was going where we had been before.
Right.
That's where I was going. But then I almost wiped out. I'm like, I'm just going here.
Right.
Because I figured it's going to be more drive time to get there, and I'm right here by my house.
Sure.
So,
right.
And it's not a lesser option. It's every bit as good. You just had something in mind in the other area.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome.
And I was thinking, too, though, because I can cover more ground faster there because I'm already at a higher elevation than the other spot.
Right.
So, a lot of that time would have been gaining into where the deer are versus I'm in deer right out of the truck. It could happen right here.
Right.
Right.
So. Well, when we first started getting hunting in the big woods, me and Corey had a mutual friend named Joe that had told us in just regular conversation that there was this guy named Arquette that he was aware of that had shot some really nice bucks over the years, and he was an Adirondack hunter. And Adam's one of the first guys that we reached out to when we were meeting people in the big woods kind of community. And Adam was pretty reserved at first, and understandably so. He's just kind of a keep to himself kind of guy, and he's a really good hunter and doesn't go about sharing every last spot that he's got, and we totally understood that. But Adam was really gracious to us, and ever since our first podcast with you, you were the first guy that we ever sat down with that really told us that everything before that was like, you got to sneak on bucks, and you got to shoot them in their beds, and do this whole death creep, and that's what the Benoits do. And you were the first guy that was, you told us, you're like, I'm like a bull. I come right up in there, and here I am. And that whole conversation we had, like, single-handedly led to me shooting my buck this year, because every track we'd got on before that, we didn't know where we were starting or where we were ending, or should I be going fast, should I be going slow. And when I found that buck's track, Adam Arquette was in the back of my mind saying, you just got to go catch up with them. And then worry about it once you catch up with them. Just get right up in there. And that's what I did. I just flew on that buck's track, and we ran right into each other. And that advice has always stuck with me. And it seems like now that I pay more attention in other podcasts of other big buck hunters, I mean, they do the same thing. They worry about sneaking once they know they're in with that deer. But until then, you just got to catch up with them. And if you bump them, cool. Now you know you're at least with that buck.
Yeah. That's well, thanks. And
you're welcome. Well, thank you.
I think a lot of that is conditions, like we talked about before, and we'll briefly just touch on that because there are times where I am like crawling, but I know I'm going to kill him. He's right there.
Right.
I know. Well, I should say I am very confident when I'm in that situation.
Which is very,
it doesn't
which
always
is very
work out.
It's very important though.
But like when I step out of that truck and it's like killing snow, I have no doubt in my mind I'm going to kill a deer. Doesn't mean I do. Most of the time you don't. But in my mind, my mindset is I'm going to kill a deer.
Right.
And nothing's going to stop that.
Right.
But that's when you have that snow, you have that confidence. It's like, he can't hear me. This is perfect. His track is so easy to read. I don't need to age it because it stopped snowing 3 hours ago and his track ain't got a flake in it.
Right.
He's right here. That's when I'm doing a Benoit death creep.
Right.
But I know he's there.
Right.
But those days are 2-3 days a season.
Slim to none, really.
When you're on crunchy snow, when you're on all that other stuff, I mean, and that's for me. That's aggression. I'm getting him. I'm getting him going. And that's what I do. But
well, we just had the conversation the other day too about like Joe Donito, like what he says and how he's so confident and when knowing a buck is there, and like that's just guys who've done it forever. Like you're the same way. Like you have that confidence to say, I know the buck is going to be right there.
And you know
this
what?
is when I have to creep.
I've been that confident, and I've been that wrong too.
That's all part of it, though. That's all part of it.
No, like I think I don't remember if I'd said it to you or you, Brad. It's not like I'm a 50-year-old guy, but I've been hunting the Adirondacks now for 20 years. When you guys reached out to me and we started talking, and then I talked to you guys throughout the season, your enthusiasm's contagious for me, and I like that. It's like it's fresh. There's not. I mean, I guess maybe you had a little bit of a preconceived notion of what was going on based on what you read.
Well, we definitely did.
But now you guys are getting some experience. It's almost like refreshing and reliving. For me, things when and we all are still learning, but it's like at that newness, and I like that. I like your guys' energy about that stuff.
Well, thanks, I appreciate it.
And we know that, and I'm sure there's people that have listened to our podcast when they were brand new, and some of the stuff we were talking about people probably thought we were kind of blowing smoke, and we were. I mean, there's a lot of things. If I could go back to a podcast now and like reiterate the things we were saying,
Absolutely.
I'd be like, nope, wrong.
Yeah, right.
That kind of stuff. But there's also been things that we have. I get when you say like if the conditions are right and it's the right snow, like I know I'm with that buck, and I feel like I know now too. Like I can look at a track and based off like where we've been, how far we've gone, and what he's doing, I have a much better idea than when we first started at where I'm at with that deer, how close I might be to him or how killable he might be. And I've also accepted the fact that not every buck is killable.
No.
Sometimes he's just going to beat you.
And then the next day he might just stand there and get shot.
Exactly.
Right. All
exactly.
based on
Well,
the day.
we talked about a story off the air where, one of your best bucks was just standing there looking at you.
Yeah.
And there's probably
3 times.
Yeah, right.
But you've had that happen to you before.
I have.
Like the story you told us on the last podcast about when you're having the fire, and that buck came up standing right behind you.
Yeah. So it's you hear everybody, I was on a death creep. Your death creep's different than mine.
Right.
I don't know what your death creep's like.
Sure.
So and like we'll bring up Joe again. Because his seminars and obviously the guy kills his monster every year.
Yeah.
What's his death creep really like?
Sure.
Is it 5 minutes here, there? Does it change?
Sure.
No, we don't know. For a death creep for me, might be running for him.
Right. Exactly.
But it works for you.
But it works because, and a lot of my deer, I'll shoot a lot of them running, but I can get them. So.
And you do have to find your own style. You can't try and force yourself into like this cookie cutter hunting style because it'll never work like that. Like take those little tidbits that you can make work for you, and then create your own. That's when you start getting successful.
That's the most fun too, because then you're learning. But it's great because there's so much now where everybody can listen to things and like, was it Jim Massett one time? You guys met Jim at the party. Mm-hmm. Great guy, very nice.
Yeah, super nice.
Obviously super accomplished when it comes to hunting.
Right.
But when I first was talking to him, I was telling him a story. He was genuinely listening to what I had to say. He wasn't just blank stare through me, just, oh yeah. Genuinely listening to what I had to say. And he said, there's something to, I forget, I don't want to misquote him, but it was more along the lines of, there's something you can take away from every hunter, no matter what their experience.
Right.
And I thought about that. I'm like, you're right. Because everybody's going to see something differently.
Sure.
And whether it's, you're going to hear things that it's like, no, absolutely not.
Right.
But regardless of how long any of us have been hunting, like you could tell me a story and point something out that I might never have noticed.
Right.
And it's like, no kidding. I never thought of that.
Right.
Why is it like that? But you might see it and I don't. Or if you've been doing it for a long time, you might get jaded to some of these things. And you might overlook what you should be picking up.
Right.
Well,
You
that's
know?
part of why I love doing the podcast too, because we get so many different people on here and so many different views from like how people
Yeah, and
hunt
it's
and what
We
they
haven't
do.
we haven't
And it-
interviewed a guest yet that wasn't completely different from the last guy we
right.
talked to.
Everyone just has something a little bit different, and you like end up thinking about it like hours later, and you're like, man, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
But you could do that without doing a podcast. Just any conversation you have with anybody who's either done it for a long time or just started this year.
Absolutely. So I listen to stories, and I love, like I've told you before, I love the entertainment. I love the last two podcasts. I think have been great. Those guys were awesome.
Yeah,
I love the
Sure.
Great
stories. I love
they
hearing
had.
everybody's stories.
Yeah.
That's great. Sometimes, for me personally, I'm not going to speak for the whole world, but I like to hear the stories rather. I don't always need an educational lesson or a lecture.
Right.
I just want to hear how your hunt went.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
I want to know what you saw that day or didn't see.
Sure,
or whatever.
sure.
So
Because you can put yourself in those people's shoes based on your own experiences, and you can equate to those
you can
things.
learn from those things and then put it into what you've seen.
Yeah.
And it's great. But
So it just got me thinking when you were saying that, like, what, as you were like coming up hunting, what was like one of the turning points for you that you were like, okay, I kind of get this thing way more now. Like, was there a point where you were like, where you gained the confidence to where you thought that you can go out and kill a buck on a certain day?
Because you don't realize it, but when you tell us stories, you tell them like they're so matter of fact, like
It was
so
like such conviction
like,
almost.
Yeah, you walked around the corner and there the buck was. I shot him right there, and we're like, yeah, but it never works like that. But to you, you're so experienced that it feels like that to you.
well, I don't really know how I can say this without sounding arrogant, because I'm not.
Well, we know that you're.
I've been very fortunate since I've started hunting. I've just always had luck.
Right.
Yeah.
I just really you just don't give up. If you want to get a deer, you just get a deer. But the most important thing for me is I want to have an adventure doing it.
Right.
That's always been what it's been about.
That's why you
for
shot
me.
your buck last year.
So yeah, just
Right?
and I like to get a deer. Don't get me wrong. Last day of the season, I'll shoot a spike horn. I'm just putting that out there right now. I don't care. I will get a deer.
I'll keep
And
that
I'm-
in mind.
Yeah.
Corey tracked 3 of them.
You're you're in dad mode now.
I'm
Corey,
in dad
so you
mode now. I gotta
Yep.
loosen up the grip on being selective.
You do, but save it for the end. That's
Yeah.
why give yourself a couple muzzleloader days.
Yep.
Late season.
Adam
you'll get something.
Adam Thompson were like, man, I don't know, that's spike horn on opening day.
Hey,
Start licking my
shoot,
chops.
shoot whatever makes you happy.
Well, I remember funny story about Adam. We were up at our tent camp, and it was like, I don't know was it the first week we were up there when you saw that buck, that spike horn?
Yeah.
He comes back to camp and he's like, boys, I gotta tell you, that spike horn was looking mighty good when he was going on.
Doesn't it? You know what though? That 6-pointer I shot this year, it wasn't a big buck. But you know what? My best friend was with me. It was beautiful out. There was deer all over that day. And I just kept hunting with him the rest of the day.
Right.
After we got, I was in it for him. Like, we were trying to get him this buck. That would have been awesome to double up.
Sure.
Oh my
that
God.
day.
Yeah.
And I'm
Would've
sitting there, I have some pictures on my phone from that day. And it's nothing. They're not posed. And I like those pictures the best.
Yeah.
I just snapped a couple pictures of my deer laying there. And there's Chris with his army fatigue coat on.
He's a killer.
He's a killer. He is a killer. Sitting down eating a sandwich, not even looking at me. And I'm like, that's something I would put up on the wall. In
That's
my
a great
camp.
picture.
Oh,
Great
absolutely.
picture.
You know,
Yeah, that's
it's
a great
those.
picture.
It's like he's just. It's the moment.
It's so genuine.
It is.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
genuine.
it is. And those are great. I have a picture of me and my brother. We shot bucks one day, a half hour apart. And there's a pit, and they weren't big ones. I was young, but I'd have shot it on any prize.
Sure.
But we got our bucks together, and it's like I still have. It's one of my favorite pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's just like
And
my
it's
first,
not just me holding this giant rack.
Right. Right.
I mean, my first buck, Corey was there. My dad was there. My best friend's dad was there, and it's like something I'll never forget
makes
ever. That made me into the hunter. Like I was like, this is the best thing on earth.
Yeah, and you should try to capture all those moments, especially with video, because like there's a video of my buck that we didn't put on the YouTube channel, but it's just a video that I took when I had gotten tired of dragging, and Corey starts dragging him for me, and Corey drags him for, I don't know, it's like a 50-second video, but Corey kind of drags him through this little opening. And I go, get behind him, Corey, and it's just Corey kneeling behind him, and Corey's looking at him and moving his head around, and me and him are talking back and forth, and that's one of my favorite parts of that whole hunt was me and Corey getting to share that hunt together. And when I'm 80 years old someday, I'll always have that video of us as young men. And the world never saw that video, but that was important to me.
I felt just as good as if I pulled the trigger.
So and what I'm saying is like just video the stupid stuff. Like there's video that you didn't see of Adam when he had first walked. Well, I guess you see where he had first walked up to us, but there's conversation we have afterwards. We're just standing there talking about my deer, and it's just great video.
Well, and like I've said this 8 million times probably on this podcast, but when I shot my buck, I'm up on top of the mountain, and I'm trying to get these guys on the radio, and no one's answering.
Of course not.
And and I'm like, man, this is gonna suck if they're not here to share this with me. Like, it's gonna suck. I wanted you guys to be there.
And I
should
have videoed me and Corey in the canoe going back across because I can tell you how excited we are. But if you saw the video of us just paddling across that lake, man, we were so excited.
We're turning you guys into some good videographers here.
Yeah, we're getting there.
But see what you just talked about now. That's for me. That's something you kind of sacrificing for how I hunt. Because I'm alone all the time.
Right.
Usually, I might be staying at camp, but I'm alone. If I'm not back at 8 o'clock, they'll come looking for me. But until then, I'm on my own.
Right.
I'll get it the next day. I might have somebody go. Other than that, every drag's been on my own for the most part.
Sure.
Well, I think that's something that we have realized really early on is how special is what we have as a group here. Because and we have people even comment on our stuff about it, and they're like, man, well, I don't have anybody to do that with. Like, I can never find someone. There's no one my age who wants to do that. So, like, just what we have, it just makes me realize how special it really is.
And that includes you. Like, for me, it was like texting Dad. Like, you were one of the first people I wanted to text going home. I'm like, here he is, big one or whatever. I'm like, send. I'm like, booyah, I'm sending a big one to Dad. I'm like, he's going to love this.
That's funny.
I did the same thing.
I couldn't wait to send Adam a picture.
I have been working nonstop and stuff this year, so I haven't been out much. But when I have gotten out, the last time I was out, I was pulling the cameras, and
oh yeah,
I don't remember if you guys texted me or something. I was almost the same spot when you had shot your buck. I had service there, and I'd gotten a text from somebody, and I was like, no kidding. What are the odds?
Yeah,
right.
It was a group text or something.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I sent you the pictures, and like as soon as I got service, I
thought that I'm like, this is Bailey's, because then I had to know. I'm in the woods, and I'm like, I gotta call somebody. This is great. This is great. No, I was wicked excited for you guys.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome. I know we talked about it beforehand, but you said you had a story about, because we'll give the Vermonters a little.
Oh yeah,
we'll give the Vermonters a little taste over there.
Yeah, I had listened to our previous podcast we did together. I wanted to make sure I didn't retell stories or something. And you were asking me something about going back to spots to pick up a track, like if that's what I did or if I find new spots. So this is a new spot story, but it's actually 2 buck stories. It's a whole season basically.
What year was this?
2018. Okay. I don't know.
Roughly
around there. I think it was 2018. You could look on Facebook. But so yeah, I had a wedding to go to. This was in the Adirondacks, so we're going to start in the Adirondacks. I hadn't hunted the spot in a couple years, but I had cameras in there. Went out. I'll tell the short version. No, I'll tell the whole thing. We got time.
You tell it all.
Yeah, I'll tell it all. Parked at the trailhead. I'm going out with fresh snow, right? And I can only hunt until I had to be leaving the woods by noon to get to my friend's wedding.
It's a short day.
November 10th it was.
Oof. Oh.
I'm cruising. And I picked up a good track right where I knew I would. I did. Right by my tree stand. So I picked up the track there, and of course he didn't go by the camera, so I didn't know which buck it was. I get on it, we do a little loop, and it's funny. I had passed his track up once, picked it up. Oh yeah, I'm taking it. 15 minutes later, I'm going right back. I'd already passed it. It looked different, you know.
Isn't that funny how different
But
they can look?
remember I was telling you about stride one time?
Yeah.
See, when I picked it up, the second time I saw it, when I actually picked it up, he was walking, dragging his feet, big wide spacing. When I walked by it the first time, I didn't think it was that big because the tracks were close together, but he was trotting. So when they run, their legs get, when they're not as spaced out.
Right.
So that's why. Anyway, I go on it. I'm on it for a while. We go for some miles. He's cruising. We're over on the steep part of that mountain we were talking about, and it's thick. He's going up feeding. I didn't sneak at all. It was quiet. It was kill mode. I didn't sneak. I just walked. Jumps up out of his – this is a short part. Jumps up out of his bed. I just pulled up. He jumped in the scope. Boom, nailed him. I mean, it was like split snapshot. Boom, nailed him in the back. Put another one in him. He's down. Beautiful 8-pointer, 174 pounds.
Nice.
Oh, beauty.
Awesome.
I
Just
gutted
missed
him.
175.
Yeah, it was 11. I think it was 11:30 or something when I shot the deer. So I gutted him out, dragged him away from. Had to send all the groomsmen a video of it,
Right.
Dragged it out and dragged it away from the gut pile. Left it there. Got to the trail. Ran out of the woods. Got home. Whatever. That was an extra fun wedding.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we had a great time, and then the next day, and we stayed in Saratoga that night. So the next day, I'm like, I gotta go up on the mountain and get this big deer. Nobody's gonna help me because everybody that would help me is hung over from the wedding.
Right.
So, like, I'm whatever. I got jeans on, dirty jeans, and my coat. I'm dragging a jet sled up into the mountain. And I go by one of my cameras, and from the day before, because I had walked by it, I'm like, there's boot tracks following me. I'm mad,
Yeah.
It was the game warden following me that day.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's more to that story. I'll tell that, too. So anyway, I'm like, no
What are
kidding.
the chances?
And he followed my tracks for a long way, and I went out, and I get to the deer. I put him in the jet sled, and I'm dragging. And I'm like, I was going to go up by the pond and then down. I start going. I'm like, I can't move him up, so I'm going lower. This group of probably 10 or 12 people come by hiking in the snow.
Oh, yeah.
And I got wasn't a good experience.
Really?
Yeah, no. This one lady wasn't very nice. She's like, really? You had to kill it? Really? I don't even have a gun with me either. I'm just dragging a dead deer. There was a couple like, oh, that's nice, congratulations. And this one lady, she just wouldn't let it go. You had to come all the way up here, kill it. Such a beautiful place you got. I mean, I'm not going to go into the rest of it.
Yeah, we could go on.
Yeah, I could go on.
About
I've
that
had
for
a few
hours.
of those up there. But anyway, so I get that deer out at dark. I can't even move. My dad's driving to pick me up because I parked up above. I'm down low. So my dad picks me up. I'm sitting there. That was a long day. I just started vacation, right? Well, my cousin, Vermont opened, so that was Saturday that I shot that buck. That was opening day of Vermont. This buck I shot in the Adirondacks.
Right.
So Sunday I got it out. Monday, my cousin, Skylar, shoots a 195-pound 8-pointer over in Vermont. So I'm over looking at it. I go right over to go look at it. And I'm like, man, Skylar, that's a big buck. He's just a young kid, He's like, you should come over here and hunt, Adam. I'm like, maybe I will. So that night, I'm looking at maps. I hunted Vermont around my Gramps' house, but I've never hunted National Forest or anything over there.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at National Forest and stuff. And my Gramps telling me, he goes, yeah, we used to hunt up in here. When he said used to, it's like, yeah, the 60s.
Right.
Lots changed since then.
Right.
So I figured out a spot I wanted to go, and it was forecasted to snow. So I'm like, all right. So I wake up in the morning, I'm driving, no snow. Get over to Rutland, still no snow. I get to the town where I'm going to hunt. There's still no snow. I'm like, I might just be taking a walk today because you can buy a license online for Vermont.
Right.
And driving up this road, I'm getting elevation. All of a sudden, it's like, whoa, where did this come from? There's snow everywhere. you know.
Awesome.
That's so weird because that's almost the same experience I
Yeah.
had when I went to Vermont this
Yeah,
past
it was
season.
like nothing. You couldn't even see it up there. And
Yeah.
going up, we're probably in the same spot.
Probably.
say
It
it
kind
on
of sounds like it,
Yeah.
but
It's getting wherever it is in Vermont, it's getting hunted anyways.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, I'll see what's up, get a feel for the road system, you know, because that's all I had to go. But I never even set foot in there before in my life. Driving these roads a little bit, there's other guys driving the roads, and I saw, I think, 2 deer tracks, and neither of them were huge, and there was guys on both of them from the road. I'm like,
Right.
all right, I'm going for a hike. So I pull down to the end of this road, and I just start hoofing it. And there ain't many deer over there,
No.
like at all.
no.
So I saw more moose tracks than anything. And I'm cruising along, and then I actually found what I wasn't sure what a big buck. You know, my cousin shot one was 195, but I wasn't sure. I'm like, they're probably more like our deer, you know.
Right.
They're the same.
You would
Right.
think.
And this track, it looked okay. I'm like, I'll take it, whatever. So I followed it for a little bit, jumped it. Well, then I'm following it for a little bit more. Say a little bit, it's probably 2 hours, you know. I come onto at the time, and it's not anymore, but at the time, it was the biggest track I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
And I was like, holy shit, you know, this thing is. And I knew he was right there. I knew he was already feeding. I clicked my safety right off. And I wasn't like death creeping, but I was scanning and walking real slow. So my total time on this buck was probably 2 minutes.
Wow.
Maybe.
Wow.
Because that other deer led me right to it.
Really?
And I'd looped around. He must have never left because I'd pretty much looped that mountain. So that buck had never left that mountain.
Yeah.
But just happened to come out crawling. He jumps out, and it was like the same exact shot I had made on the Adirondack buck like 2 days before. Mm-hmm. Right to left, I pulled up, and he was in the scope. Boom. Shattered his pelvis. But I didn't know I hit him then because he was going over the hill. So he went over, so I ran to the edge of the hill, and he was dragging. I finished him there, and I was like, oh my God. I don't usually get like super wound up.
Right.
I do, but I was screaming when I shot this buck because it's got a wide rack.
Yeah,
and
it's like tall. It's pretty tall too.
yeah, it's wicked tall. And I was like, whoa, screaming at the top of my lungs. Like, I felt like, you know, I was like this. You know? We ain't going to say the gesture I just made. But I was the man, you know. I was just, like, ready to rip my shirt off. And I go down and I look, and this thing just looks like a massive tank of a deer. Biggest foot I'd ever seen on a deer. And I don't even know how much this thing weighs because I'm just like, oh, my God.
And
you
he's
know?
a what? 8, 10, 12?
It was technically, I think it's a 7.
Okay.
I tagged it as an 8, but I don't think that point. We'll get into
Could
that
you hang
too.
a ring off it?
It's the only deer I've ever had scored.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So you'll tell us what the score
So
is.
we'll tell you.
I was
I'm
going to
curious.
guesstimate.
That's
Hey,
yeah.
before you say it too, before you do it, I want to guess. So before you go.
Okay.
Before
I
you
will.
go. I wanna
Yeah,
guess
because I
what it
sent
is.
you the picture.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, I got it out, and this was probably the best hunting day of my life. And this is why I want to tell the story.
Yeah.
So I got it out, and I'm just like, my GPS, because I didn't have Onyx, and on my GPS, I didn't even have contour lines on it.
Oh, wow.
And I'd never been there in my life. I
Right.
had never even set foot or driven in there or anything. But I marked a pin where my truck was, so I just pull it out, and it's a yellow screen with a dot where the truck is and where I am. I'm like, I have no idea what's between me and the truck.
Oh, no.
I left the tracks on. I'd left the tracks on so I could see kind of where it went,
Sure.
and I was all over the place. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go right to it. I had service miraculously. I had service right there. I call my friend. He just works for IRS out of Rutland.
Yeah.
I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm working. I go, I just shot a monster. He's like, again? I'm like, yeah, in Vermont. He didn't believe me. I go, no, I did. He goes, well, I'll be there in a few hours, I guess. I'm like, all right, I'm calling some. My next phone call was to my gramp. I always call my gramp. He's one of the first people I call when I get one, just to tell him because he loves it. He was so happy. And he's like, we'll come out and get you. I'm like, who's we?
Yeah, who's we? That was my
Who's
first thought.
So I
Me and Graham.
I got cousins. I got young cousins, and the twins are in their 40s over there. And they're all good hunters and stuff. And like, they're coming to the rescue. So I just told them where I was. on the road. I didn't even know the name of the road. I'm like, what it was, the name of the road on the map wasn't Fire Road whatever.
Right.
You know? So there was confusion there because they all knew and I had no idea.
Right.
So I'm just dragging to the truck. Well, I dragged for hours. And I'm getting over there and I hear somebody, yo. What I had done is left the deer, walked out to the trail, and I left a little arrow and wrote my name. And then I left my pack and my gun maybe 60 yards in the woods. So I'm dragging. I see this guy coming through the woods. I see somebody coming behind him. I look. It's my grandpa who's almost 80 years old. And he's just, short-legged, bouncing over the things.
Is he taller than you? Or?
No, he's 5'2".
Okay.
So he's got my gun in my pack, and I'm like, I can't believe he just came out into the woods. That made my whole season.
That's right.
I was like, this is the greatest, because it's the last time I'll ever, have anything like that with him, and it was great. And then his friend Ronnie's with him, and I'm like, where's the help? Because they're both geriatrics, and it's like, my grandpa dragged the deer 5 feet. He goes, there, I just wanted to say I helped drag it. And Ronnie's not in good shape, and I'm like, I'm on my own. So I was on my own the rest of the way out, but I had company at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Got it out to the truck, and now it was just dark when we got to the truck.
How far was the drag, you think?
Oh, it was a drag. I don't know. It was over a mile.
Okay.
Probably close to 2, but maybe not.
Yeah.
But I had to go like around, and that added to it. But anyway, yeah. So and then Vermont, they have the tagging stations,
right?
And
they do?
Yeah.
Vermont
Still?
yeah.
Well,
to this day?
that's when 2018. I had to bring it to a station, right? So I had my tag on it, and you go check your deer in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with them, following them. They're all, and that's a scene, because there's people just hanging out there to see deer.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So, well, anyway, when we're in the woods, I had my grandpa's like, what do you think this deer weighs? I'm like, I don't know, maybe 200, because it looked a lot bigger than Skylar's deer. And his weighed 195.
Right.
He goes, oh, that deer's going to weigh 230, 240. So when he's saying that, I'm like, I'm speechless, because I'm still shell-shocked,
That you even saw a buck.
Yeah. And so we get to the tagging station, 171.
No.
I'm like, all right. My grandpa goes, no. He goes, take that deer off. You get on the scale. Like, he was ready to fight these people. It's like, that deer weighs more than that. They want the scale checked. I weighed myself. I'm like, I know about what I weigh. I'm like, it's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got looking at, so brought that deer home. So I got 2 big bucks hanging next to each other, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
And when they were next to each other, you could see it's like they were just built totally different. Like that Vermont buck had no ass to him.
Yeah.
And the Adirondack buck, he was long, thick, and they weighed about the same.
Right.
Built totally
But just
different.
completely
Looking
different
though,
builds.
that Vermont buck, he had like a wicked chest on him, deep chest, good color. It came out real nice. The cape was real nice on it.
Yeah, that mount's beautiful.
I have Pete LaJoy over in Shrewsbury, does a lot of my mounts for me.
Okay.
And like I said, I've never been one on score. I've never had one scored. But I brought that one over, and he's like, he goes, you want to enter it in the record book? And I go, the record book? He goes, yeah, that'll make the Vermont record book. I'm like, no way. He goes, it's only 110 inches for the Vermont record book.
Right. The threshold.
The threshold, which I had no idea.
We didn't either until.
Yeah, it's only 110 inch. Yeah. I'm like, I go, you know what? Yeah, I will, because my gramps got bucks in the Vermont record book. Mm-hmm. I go, that'd be cool to have that in there,
right.
with, And so they score it at Pete's shop. 109 7/8.
No.
I didn't give you a chance to guess.
That's okay. That's
109 7/8. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, he goes, boy, I go, are you sure it's not because I'm from New York? I'm shaved an eighth of an inch. But that one brow, it's really a 7-pointer. That one's not even, it's not an inch long.
Really?
He had no brows.
I only saw the picture quick, but I had him at least 120. I saw the picture that I saw.
I could probably
It's-
believe
I think-
he's a little spindly. Like
It doesn't have much mass.
He looks like a Vermont buck. A lot of those Vermont bucks have that characteristic where
he's like 20 inches wide.
Yeah, he's
a
wicked
beautiful
wide,
buck.
but no tine length and no mass to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, great buck.
So in my adult life, I've only hunted Vermont one day, and I'm batting 1,000.
Right, and that's where you started hunting though too, correct?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
That's where you gave us the Gramps story of
Yup,
you
yup,
hunting with him
'cause
there. And
I
that's what
can't
you
see
can-
him.
yeah, I can't see him. Yeah, if you guys
Yeah.
haven't listened to that podcast, you got to go listen.
Yeah.
to it.
But no, that's why I
first
started
one was
hunting in
great.
Vermont when I was a kid. But
Right.
once I could hunt in New York, I never hunted there again.
Yeah.
I think we bow hunted there once, you know,
Sure.
but I never hunted over
The
there
same
again.
way that the Vermont guys are like hold very, very close to their heart their Vermont hunting. I feel like Adirondack guys do too. They really just prefer to stay in the Adirondacks and shoot deer in the Adirondacks.
Well, I'll tell you. So after that, I took my grandpa out for a ride the summer, just driving all those Green Mountain National Forest and all that stuff, and that was cool. And he's telling us stories and stuff. And I'm like, we got out and checked out a couple spots. I'm like, I ain't leaving the Adirondacks to come home over here. So I didn't see. I mean, there wasn't. I mean, I was only on there one day, so I don't have enough, one day's experience. I ain't gonna be like, yeah. But I mean, I wasn't. For the amount of ground I covered before I found, like, man, I would have found something.
Right,
You know?
right,
Yeah,
right.
I do, again, the only reason I went over there last year is because I had shot
tagged
the
out,
buck,
yeah.
and the first track I came across, I was like, this is bigger than anything I see over in the
They're
Adirondacks.
built different.
They're built different over here.
Though, I'd seen looking back now, I had seen comparable. I was amped up on. I was still flying high. I had just shot a buck a few days before,
Oh,
a nice
yeah.
one. My cousin shot a monster, and that got me amped up because I'm like, that was the second year in a row he'd shot a big one over there. I'm like,
Right.
there's some deer over here. I'm gonna get one.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
I definitely had. We were talking about confidence. Once I had seen that snow, I am gonna kill a deer in here today. I had
Right.
that mindset when I left the truck.
Right.
It just happened to work out.
Yeah, yeah.
I lost my train of thought there.
How
I had questions
antler-wise? So if he was 109 7/8, how'd he match up to your 8-pointer in New York? What was that buck's rack like?
I mean, the New York buck had bigger tines.
Okay, so he's probably right about.
He didn't have the
same.
spread though. About the same mass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to get back over to Vermont, you think, at all again, or are you?
No.
No.
I mean, I shouldn't say what I want to do, but well, because I don't want to set standards, and but I was listening to somebody just had a podcast out about goals. Neil Peddleton.
Oh, Neil
Yeah,
Pendleton.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that, and I was like, I've been planning a Maine hunt for 8 years now. It's one thing or another, it never works out.
Let us know when you're going.
Financially, whatever. It just
Right.
doesn't work out for me. But I think if I tagged out in New York early this year, I would probably do Maine or New Hampshire.
Yeah. And you've never been to Maine or New Hampshire,
Nope.
right?
Nope. I have only hunted. So all my bucks I've shot in the Adirondacks. I hunted Pennsylvania twice, and I shot one down there in the Allegheny National Forest.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
What was that?
that was a 7-pointer, big one,
Yeah.
heavy horns.
Yep. Different
And,
kind of big woods, though.
There's hunters. I ran into a lot of hunters down there,
Oh, yeah. We did, too, when we went there.
and
It was-
that was rifle. But it was on snow. I had snow,
Really?
and yeah, I'll tell that story.
Yeah,
real
yeah.
quick.
Tell us
Yeah,
story.
So I had shot a buck up here, and I was tagged out. So I have friends that live down there that I used to work with. So they would come on, stay down our house, like northwestern Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That direction.
Yep.
And there's a lot of state game lands and stuff down there. Well, we had permission to cross this private property to get onto state game. We could hunt the private lands too, but get up and leave everybody. I'm the new guy down there, so like they all have stands. Nobody walks. They do whatever.
Right.
I go up on the game lands, and I'm walking up, and with my friend Travis, and I'm like, it's just snowed. It was perfect conditions. It had just snowed that night, and it stopped right before daylight, right? So we're walking up. There's a lot of deer in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
A lot.
And these are just cow paths on the side of this mountain. It's steep, but they're like roads that are the deer using. So we're crossing some of these, and I look down. I'm looking. There's tracks everywhere. Well, I see one distinct big one. I'm like, that's what I would follow if I was up home. And he's like, yeah, but you don't want to follow him down here because you'll just push into somebody else, I'm like, maybe,
How much room do you have to work with?
I mean, there are thousands of acres.
Thousands,
It's big,
yeah.
big chunks.
Right.
and it's all woods.
Yeah.
You know, so and it's different. They have mountain laurel
Yeah.
where I was,
Yeah.
and so I'm going up. He's going. I go. I'm gonna kind of follow this a little bit and just find a spot. You know, so I was following that track on the run, and it was feeding on stuff like acorns, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was acorns. He was feeding, and there was like intersections of trails there. I'm just gonna plop down here. It was thick mountain laurel up above me. So I just plopped down there, and that's where that track went. I wasn't there maybe 20 minutes, and I heard boom, boom, boom up above, right? And it was probably 5 minutes after that, that buck just came kind of sneaking down right. I think it was the same one, but I'm not sure.
Right.
He came right down. If it was, he came right down where he just went, came right to me, and I shot him right there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was right up,
awesome.
walked right
That's
up
an
to me.
interesting perspective, though. Like, hey, like I don't think I would follow that deer because you're probably going to push into someone else.
Yeah.
And in where it's heavily hunted like that, that's a really
I
good
believe it.
possibility. Yeah.
Because I went back the next year, and there was no snow. And I went back to the same spot, and that's why I stopped going, because there was, I was sitting there. I was there before daylight. I'm going to sit here all day. There's deer all over. I'm sitting there, and this father and son come up, and I don't know, the kid's probably a teenager. Whatever, you know, but they sat down like 30 yards from me, and they're looking at me, and I'm like, somebody's got to move here, you know, and they're kind of looking at me, looking at them, and I didn't want to be rude, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, come on, you know? So I go, all right, you guys can have it. I said just loud like that. I like, all right, you guys can have it. Pack, because I'm already in my sleeping bag, sitting there, you know. But you got to be orange because you'll get killed down there.
Right. It's a war. It is an
It is a
absolute
war zone.
War zone.
It is. Well, that's after I shot my deer that day. Some guy shot one. I didn't know there was anybody even near me. Boom, boom, scared the crap out of me. I could hear him working his action after I killed mine. It was 30, but I couldn't see him. And Travis was like, yeah, man, that's how it goes down here. But, yeah, there was people all over. So I left that spot, moved to another spot, and then this guy comes walking up. Then somebody was on a four-wheeler up there, and they knew they weren't supposed to be. It was on, like, I don't know if state or national or whatever.
Right.
They're like driving. I'm like, dude, I don't even know if I'm on state game land at this point. I'm just trying to get away from everybody. I haven't gone back since.
Yeah, when we went there, our buddy shot the buck, and when we walked out, there was like a guy waiting out there at the truck, and it was like nothing. He was like, okay, shot a buck. That's
Yeah.
because like there's just so many people. They
Yeah,
probably
that's
see
the 50th one I've seen
so
today.
many bucks come out of there.
Oh, there's deer everywhere.
yeah.
But
It doesn't.
there's some beauties though. Nice deer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, they have the antler restrictions
Yeah.
and everything going for them down there. It's just a whole
Yep.
different world.
But yeah, so I shot one in Pennsylvania, one in Vermont, and all the rest of them are all Adirondack deer.
and then you'll shoot one in Maine this year when you tag out.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. We'll see.
I wouldn't even know where to start in Maine. Like that'd be like relearn it because with all the log roads and it's not state land, it's paper land, and
Yeah.
it just would be a whole different experience to
Yeah.
figure all
well,
that out.
and actually, we're gonna have to kind of learn how
Where's
to hunt
good
like
hunting?
that.
What's not good hunting? It's like you take a road. It's like, is it even good
I know.
hunting here?
I've had spots picked out, and the whole hunt's planned out in my head for years. But I could get there. It could be gated.
Totally
I might not even
different.
be able to get to it.
Right.
Well, I mean,
So-
we're gonna have to start learning to hunt like that for whenever we hunt up at our camp. Our camp is logged in the
Yeah.
Adirondacks, and it's like just
Yeah.
a whole. We talked about it a bunch, like how are we gonna go about hunting this because we're not used to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do deer use the cuts? Do they use the edge
Yeah,
of the
how-
cuts?
yeah.
Do they not really care about cuts? Like, how does it all work?
Yeah.
Don't know.
It'll be
Figure it
nice.
out.
But my main goal, I want to get a really, really big one this year.
Yeah.
And if I would
As
almost
in like rack or body
rack.
rack.
And I mean, I will take, you know, what I've been shooting. But I want to really hold out for a good one. I think I'm more or less like, if that's not that caliber, I'm just gonna not get one.
Sure.
That's
Right.
where I'm at, kind of.
Yeah. Then that's fine.
So-
It's just
Plus,
another
you
chapter.
guys have shot 10 pointers, and I never have.
It's so funny you say that. My buddy Henry Moncrief, he's part of Just Hunt Club, and I talk to him all the time, and it was kind of like that new hunter thing, and I was like, dude, you've just shot so many bucks and so many nice bucks, and he's like, yeah, but you've done something I haven't. I'm like, what? He's like, I've never shot a 10-pointer before. He goes,
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I'm like, you're jealous of me? I'm like, you're the one who you just shot a 154-inch buck. And you're jealous of me shooting a 10-pointer?
Yeah. Hey, you gotta have whatever. I think I've shot like 26 bucks. Never shot a 10-pointer.
It's
Wow.
so weird.
Nope,
It
that's
seems like there's a
amazing.
lot of 10-pointers that come out of the Adirondacks.
It depends where you are. See,
Particularly
and I'll tell
this
ya,
year, I saw
because a
ton.
lot of places where I run cameras and hunt, I don't get many on camera. I
Right.
get big 8s,
Sure.
average 8s. You know, you
So
get one
weird.
once in a while, but then there's other spots where it's like, yeah, they're kicking. So.
Right. What's Sleepy Joe, Core?
8-pointer.
He's an 8-pointer?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see? It's that same spot.
You
up
know
there,
what,
just
though?
full 8-pointers.
Well, that's fun because
I'm done with that spot.
I love. You know what though? I'll never pass up a big heavy 8
No,
pointer.
of
No,
course
Never.
not. Of
gosh,
course
no.
not.
No. Well, we pulled the camera up there this year and everything. I don't know. Were you showing him the pictures of it earlier?
They're all
They're all
Every
8-pointers.
single one's an 8-pointer.
Yeah.
They're all 8-pointers.
And they're all like cookie cutter 8 pointers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
yeah,
are.
yeah.
They are about
Yeah, genetics.
155-pound 8-pointers. What they
And
look
you know
like.
what? Some of them deer never turn into anything more than that.
Right.
But like that one that I tracked muzzleloader, and I think it was the one that we'd seen on camera after. He's just a 5-pointer. I would absolutely take him the first day of the season.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What a monster.
Wait, which one's that? What are you?
The last day of muzzleloader, I tracked that one.
The gentleman
The
buck.
gentleman buck.
Oh, yeah.
He's just a big 5.
Yeah.
How will I
if
know
it's
him
him.
if I see him this year? Is there anything unique about his rack? Did you get a good enough
He'll be
look
in the
at
back
him?
of my truck.
I saw that coming in your
I don't know because I think he's old. I think he's old, so he might. Who knows? He might not even have lived.
Right.
You know.
Well, they had a tough. All the deer had a pretty tough.
There
winter.
wasn't. You know what though? The lake didn't freeze, so
No.
that the dogs weren't running them out on the ice.
Right. Yeah.
That saves. That saves.
Wasn't it? It must have been 2 years ago. Then you told us that somebody had found one out on the ice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that wasn't last year then.
Every year, usually every year somebody will find a big one out there if it freezes early enough.
Right.
You know,
Right.
before they drop their horns. But
Right. Well, I listened to a recent THP podcast, and it was with Joe Rentmeester. He's a Wisconsin guy, but he's a really accomplished bow hunter. Shot some really big bucks, especially in swamp lake areas. And he said that one of his least fun seasons was when he shot a buck on opening day.
Yeah.
And never got to hunt the entire season. And we talk all the time about how the best seasons were, if we could make it our ways, you hunt all season long and kill one on the last day.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good hunting season.
you know, when it's like I've shot, you tag out early or something, but that's when you bring your buddies. And
Right.
just
Oh, yeah.
go for the experience.
Sure.
Right.
You know, and I joke, I don't bring them out. You ain't got to bring a gun. Just bring them out. Go with them.
Right.
Be with
Yeah.
them.
Right.
Well,
Well,
I mean,
I'll
that-
get right behind one of these guys and just double team with them.
Yeah,
That'd be
anything.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean
anything.
that's great for us with a camera now too.
Yeah, it's perfect for that.
Follow behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've put a lot of my friends, big bucks, in front of a lot of my friends, and you know what? They always let me down. But one of the biggest
hey,
rack bucks I have ever seen. I
Right.
mean, my brother-in-law, he didn't get him.
Right.
We were,
Right.
and I mean, it was like a dream situation.
Right.
And it just happened, you know. It's just,
It's fun to see how other people hunt too. Me and Corey hunt almost exactly the same. I feel like if you put us in the same area, we would hunt it the same.
Yeah.
But I haven't spent a lot of time hunting with Bailey, like one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it'd be fun for me to spend some time with you and just watch you and let you make your own decisions. Just see how you hunt the woods. You never know what
Probably
you'll take
really
away
fast.
from somebody. Yeah, you like to move pretty quick.
I mean, you know how I am turkey hunting is probably pretty
Right.
similar.
And same with you.
constantly on the move.
If the opportunity ever presented itself, I'd love to spend the day on snow with you and just see
Yeah.
how you move through the
and
woods.
yeah, and that's fine. And like for me, it's like I'm always alone. But like me and my brother, completely different. Everything. But if we're hunting the same area, he already knows what I'm going to be doing in a situation, and I already know whereabout he's going to be without even talking about it.
Right.
Right.
I already have an idea.
Yeah.
And you know, things like that work out. When we went together, it's like I'm so used to being alone. I don't even know how to work with you guys when we're yeah, I'm just like,
you seen anything?
yeah, pretty much. Like I'm doing this, and I get so focused sometimes, like with what I'm gonna do, that it's like nothing else even matters.
Sure.
Like good luck. I'll see you
Sure.
at the truck, kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Well, it's funny what you said about your brother, because Corey and I are completely different too in the way that we hunt. Because Corey is like, I don't even know how to explain like the way Corey is, like how he's always thinking like 10 steps ahead and putting all this stuff and pieces of the puzzle together. And I'm simple-minded. I really am. At the end of the day, I'm simple-minded.
Me too.
And I just usually go out there and walk through the woods and hunt and just kind of go off my natural instinct.
Yeah.
And Corey, I feel like, is way more meticulous in the way that he goes about it.
Yeah. I think it leads to some overthinking, though, honestly, too.
Yeah,
It's
well-
a double-edged sword.
I've had that happen to me, where I've thought too much of where I think they are, and then I walk by where they are showing me they are.
Yes.
And then it's like, oh, I'm going up into that mountain because they're going to be up in the green growth on top of the mountain. Well, they're not a lot of times.
Right.
We're gonna blurb this out because I have to say it makes sense for you, but Corey. But how many times do we come out of that lower swamp at the end of the day, and we always say the same thing? Man, there's a lot of does in here. Man, there's a lot of does in here. And we'll come in the very next day and be like, hey, remember all those does yesterday? All right, straight to the top we go. And we walk right by
It's
it
so
all.
funny you said that because for the first time this past season, I spent some time down there. The latter half of one of the days where there was snow. And I was blown away with what I was finding down there with the big tracks, the big sign, and the amount of deer that we knew were down there.
Yeah.
It was pretty impressive.
But that can be deceiving because
It is.
there maybe a few days of that month they're going to be there in daylight, and other than that, if at all, they're not.
Sure.
Definitely.
Because they're coming down. Because if they were, they'd be killed.
Well, the only reason it came to mind was our last guest, Christian Bills, when he was telling us a story about how he was walking out with his cousins or some friends, one of the two, and they decided to push off this one last piece because they were headed towards that parking area anyways. And it's the same thing. It's like if we just let one guy continue out the way we always do and somebody swings back towards where me and you were meeting up, and then work back towards the trail, you could push that whole swamp to that other guy just doing it because you're leaving anyways.
Yeah.
And who knows what would come out of it. And Christian ended up shooting a slammer in there.
Yeah, I listened to that story. That was really interesting. And I'm interested in that stuff because I know spots that would work. I'm just always alone.
Right,
but
right.
On bare ground, it's like, what else are you gonna do? I mean,
That's
you
what
could
we're doing
sit-
this year.
Dude,
Christian convinced us that is what we are going to do this year. Todd told us the same thing, but 3 years ago we were very new to all this, and we were kind of ignorant to some of the advice that we were being given. And Todd was right. We should have been hunting together all along and hunting cohesively, and we're going to do that this year on bare ground. When the snow flies, free for all.
Yeah, free for all. But and then I mean, there's a hawk flying over us with a snake.
Oh yeah.
Right now.
Catch them all.
If it was
Squirrel.
home, it'd be a
Distracted.
rattlesnake.
I know, it would be.
Yes, we did run into a rattlesnake today up in
we
the
did.
woods. It was I was very close to it.
Thank God they're not out in November.
That's exactly what we said.
Well, we're walking up, and I'm like, if these things were out in the fall, I would be dead. Or many of us could be dead.
I think it'd be inevitable that you'd get bit at some point.
Maybe.
It really would it's not a matter of if, it's just when, because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
How do you know quite a bit about the rattlesnakes?
I guess. What do you mean?
In the Adirondacks,
I don't think they're all over. I think it's just around where I live.
Right.
right. But I guess I don't know where I was going with it, but I'm just curious.
He's intrigued now that he saw it.
I'm so intrigued.
All he wanted to see
Bailey.
today was a rattlesnake, and he saw one.
Google.
I know.
Yeah,
we talked about having a biologist on that maybe could kind of expand on it if they've done any research.
If there's anybody out there who knows anything about rattlesnakes in the Adirondacks, get a hold of us because I'm curious now.
You took us off a perfectly good topic. We got to swing back to that.
Guys,
We got to swing back.
This
to
is what I do.
Yeah,
whatever.
What I do.
But when you're on the bare ground, why not work together? Because the chances of us still hunting a buck by chance and killing them is it's too far.
Yeah.
It's too hit or miss.
See, for me, especially since I've had children, the bare ground is more of when I'm getting my scouting in.
Right.
But even I found I've been hunting the last few years. I've been hunting the same areas rather than just all over.
Yes.
And it's I don't need to scout this anymore. What am I doing? You know.
Right.
But I feel like I'm losing time before the snow comes. That I'm really just kind of wandering around, messing around with trail cameras when they should have already been up in August. But
But
I'm
it's
working
time.
80 hours a week in August or whatever, so you can't, or
Yeah.
vacations and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so
And we're not talking drives, we're just talking
Still hunts.
Yeah, just working
Yeah.
a mountain together and maybe you bump one to each
Yeah.
other and then share information and then we'll hit the next mountain over,
Well,
the next swamp over.
We're gonna figure out this year how it
Yeah,
goes.
we'll see how it
Yep.
goes because that's what we're gonna do. And it'll be good for Adam too because poor Adam, we walk like jerks out in the woods. I mean, we walk Mach 10, and it's
gotta
just
learn to walk.
Yeah, Adam, you have any words for us about how we walk?
No, I mean, You guys just long strides, man. You just take off.
And I get it, man. Like, it's not cool because there'll be days where I'm not feeling it and Bailey's just hoofing it. And it's like, dude, we are smoking right now. Like, you got to dial it back a bit. I mean, we are doing a full-blown exercise at this
my
point.
legs can only stretch so far.
So it gives us an opportunity to bring him into the hunt with us now. Like, dude, let's work this mountain off together. We're going to take it nice and easy.
You guys
we
are nicer than me. I'd leave you behind. My brother's like, I'll see you. I'll see you at the truck.
Well, I could tell you. Oh, there's so much commotion going on right now. It's
Go
getting
get
heated,
it, brother.
Well, I can tell you a funny story about Adam one day when we did leave him in the dust. Brad on a mountain that we all hunt. You hunt it too.
Yeah.
Brad shot into a buck, and we're all like, Corey and I, we had our cousin Tyler with us. We're all like, oh, let's go. We're going, and Adam's all pumped up. Well, we start going, and we're headed to the buck. We're going fast, and Adam's following behind a little bit with his short legs, and all of a sudden we stop for 1 second. He catches up to us, and he just looks at us with this like mugged face on. Are you kidding me? And we're like what? He goes, we really gonna run to this buck? And we're all just kind of look around, and I look at Corey, and Corey looks at him, and he goes, yeah. We are. We took off.
Buried him.
Right, we never found the buck, but
No, we didn't.
Mind you, that ditch you were talking about earlier, that's where I was.
Okay.
That's where I came from.
So you had to go up and over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I walk pretty fast.
You do. You get along just fine.
So
yeah.
Machine
You sure
gun
do.
reps, man. Just move them legs. Yeah. Bounce off the trees.
Pinball it.
I'm like a bear cub going through the woods. But, no.
all right. Well, what do you guys think?
Yep. Another good one. Another good
about
one.
an hour.
After the season, we'll bring Adam back on. And he can
Oh,
tell him
yeah,
tell us
we'll
about all
have
the big
even
bucks
more
he
stories.
We
shot.
got it. I'd like to do what we talked about, what I'd
Yes.
send in the text.
Yes.
I think that'd be good.
Absolutely, we
We
will.
will.
That'd
We
be
will.
awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be
we
good.
certainly will.
So, all right, guys. As always, go give us a follow and like on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all under Adirondack Bucks and Beyond, and we'll catch you next time. Adam, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.